this is a thing. Oracle owns the copyright to JavaScript. So there's inherently an interesting situation there with a company who really hasn't done much with the platform and the language. Most of it's designed by committee, but it's kind of interesting when an entity that's not necessarily too interested, it seems, in the technology owns such a big part of the community. And I know this is like a huge deal in the Rust community, like being able to use trademarks and being able to produce content. Technically, you're not supposed to use the JavaScript name without Oracle's permission. So there's kind of a huge issue there. And one other thing that does seem interesting is, say, Microsoft owns NPM, the Linux Foundation owns Node, V8's owned by Google, and the trademarks owned by Oracle for the language. So you've got all these different entities all owning bits and pieces of JavaScript. So it's really interesting that one of the least involved companies owns the name. So anyway, let's read this. Let's read this and see what they have to say. And I don't know, maybe we'll sign the letter too. Let's see how this goes. So Oracle, it's time to free JavaScript. Dear Oracle, you've long ago abandoned the JavaScript trademark, and it's causing widespread, unwarranted confusion and disruption. JavaScript is the world's most popular programming language, powering websites everywhere. It's the only way to power websites on the front end. Yet few of the millions who program in it realize that JavaScript is a trademark you, Oracle, control. The disconnect is glaring. JavaScript has become a general-purpose term used by countless individuals and companies independent of any Oracle product. It is amazing to me that I forget. Like, I had heard this once before, that Oracle owned the JavaScript trademark, and I completely forgot about it until this came up today. So it is kind of crazy that this is a thing. Oracle's hold on the JavaScript trademark clearly fits the legal definition of trademark abandonment. A previous blog post addressed this issue, requesting that you, Oracle, we might read that later, requesting that you, Oracle, release the trademark. Unsurprisingly, the request was met with silence. It's therefore time to take an active step in order to bring the JavaScript trademark into the public domain where it belongs. Does it belong in the public domain? That's a big question. Do companies need to be the one who owns that? I mean, a foundation owning it didn't work out great for Rust. I mean, they deal with all sorts of issues with people trying to make content for Rust, and technically Rust Foundation can sue them because it's illegal. That's the entire reason Crablang exists. This fork, but made by Tech Savvy Travi, this fork exists, and all it is a shell script that replaces Rust with Crablang. It runs like over the top of Crablang, and all it does is exist so that you can stream and not be sued by the Rust Foundation. It's crazy that some of this stuff happens. Maybe public domain is the actual right answer. Maybe putting it in public domain for something that's literally a cornerstone of the open web, maybe that makes sense. Let's read on. Trademark abandonment. Title 15 of the United States Code, Section 1127 states, a mark shall be deemed to be abandoned if either the following occurs: when its use has been discontinued with intent not to resume such use. Intent to resume may be inferred from circumstances. Non-use for 3 consecutive years shall be a prima facie. I don't speak Latin, so I don't speak lawyer, so evidence of abandonment. Use of a mark means bona fide use of such mark made in the ordinary course of trade and not made merely to reserve a right in a mark. So it is potentially in violation of this. I don't think Oracle ships a JavaScript interpreter aside from maybe the one that I think there maybe is one. Okay, yeah. There's one for the JVM, and I think there's one that ships with. Is this actively maintained? Stable release was 2022, 2 years ago. This is a likely abandoned, but this is one that's embedded into the Java runtime. So you can run JavaScript within Java. But I've heard it's terribly not performant. I've heard it's really, really slow compared to V8. V8 has been leaps and bounds, and they're not even trying to compete. So 2 here, when any course of conduct of the owner, including acts of omission as well as commission, cause the mark to become the generic name for the goods or service on or in connection with which it is used, otherwise to lose its significance as a mark. Purchaser motivation shall not be a test for determining abandonment under this paragraph. In the case of JavaScript, both criteria apply. I think possibly. Netscape, Sun, and Oracle. The JavaScript trademark is currently held by Oracle America Incorporated. And then there's the patent. How did this come to be? In 1995, Netscape partnered with Sun Microsystems to create interactive websites. Brendan Eich famously spent only 10 days creating the first version of JavaScript, a dynamic programming language with a rough syntactic lineage from Sun's Java language. It was also named JavaScript and launched aside Java because it was going to use Java as a jumping off point, essentially, to gain popularity. That's why it was named JavaScript. I think it had a different name, Mocha. Yeah, it was originally Mocha and LiveScript. It was rebranded to JavaScript for a reason. In 2009, Oracle acquired Sun Microsystems and the JavaScript trademark as a result. It's interesting that Netscape and Sun collaborated, but Netscape held the patents on held the trademark. It's an interesting relationship. I would have thought Netscape would have wanted to hold on to that trademark, but here we are. So the trademark is simply a relic of this acquisition. Neither Sun nor Oracle has ever built a product using the mark. That's not true per se. Just being fair here. They do have a JavaScript engine in Java, so that's not necessarily true. Legal staff year after year have renewed the trademark without question. It's likely that only a few within Oracle even know they possess the JavaScript trademark, and even if they do, they likely do not understand the frustration it causes within the developer community. Here's the thing. Oracle has a bit of a reputation for being a patent troll and for being a bit of they acquire a company and they do the bare minimum needed to steward the product, and then immediately upon acquisition they don't abandon the product fully, but they charge money for it and then they don't do much with it. Java has advanced in the last few years, but it laid stagnant for a long time, and with a large community backing before, community trying to get advances into Java before they actually went. And tons of shops are still on Java 7 and Java 8. Some places will never get off those old versions because of how much time we spent on those platforms, and admittedly how stable they were, but at the same time there was no advancements during that period, no significant ones anyway. So use it or lose it. Oracle has abandoned the JavaScript trademark through non-use. Oracle has never seriously offered a product called JavaScript. In 1990s and early 2000s, Netscape Navigator, which supported JavaScript as a browser feature, was a key player. However, Netscape's usage and influence faded by 2003, and the browser saw its final release in 2008. JavaScript, meanwhile, evolved into a widely used independent programming language embedded into multiple browsers entirely separate from Oracle. I have not seen how Google and other browser vendors legally can use the name JavaScript in their stuff. Let's go look at this. So this is the JavaScript engine behind Chrome. Let's see what we got here. Oh, okay, here's the Sun Microsystems. Developed at Sun Microsystems. Permission use or copy distribute this software is freely granted provided that this notice is preserved. Okay. And then there's the BSD license for Sun Microsystems. Okay. So Oracle's name. So we're going to search within this repo. So there is zero reference to Oracle, the company, in here. There's reference to Sun Microsystems, but there's zero reference to Oracle. They haven't even bothered to force Google to update this. The most recent specimen filed with USPTO in 2019 references nodejs.org, a project created by Ryan Dahl, the author of this letter, and also the author of Dino, and Oracle's JavaScript extension toolkit, Jet. But Node.js is not an Oracle product, and Jet is merely a set of JavaScript libraries for Oracle services, particularly Oracle Cloud. There are millions of JavaScript libraries. Jet is not special. Oracle is not even a member of the OpenJS Foundation, the body that the Node.js project lives under now, nor does Oracle have any involvement whatsoever in the development of Node.js. Is Oracle part of the ECMAScript? Is Oracle... Oracle becomes an ECMA TC39 member. GraalVM is potentially another JavaScript product built by Oracle. See, this is something that came up before in 2014 and 2022. This also came up. This is not a new thing. Oracle also offers GraalVM, a JVM that can execute JavaScript among other languages, but GraalVM is far from a canonical JavaScript implementation. Engines like V8, JavaScript Core, and SpiderMonkey hold that role. GraalVM's product page doesn't even mention JavaScript. You must dig into the documentation to find its support. Oracle's use of JavaScript in GraalVM and Jet does not reflect genuine use of trademark. That's arguable in court. I could see the Oracle lawyers taking this and say, we offer a platform in GraalVM. They also offer a platform on the Java runtime. It's not, and the Jet I don't think is probably enforceable. Like I don't see that one as being a thing. But anyway, these weak connections do not satisfy the requirements for consistent real-world use in trade. I think developers know that for the most part, but I don't think necessarily the lawyers will. So this is interesting, and that maybe that's where this petition comes in. A generic term. A mark can also be considered abandoned if it becomes a generic term. JavaScript, I would say 100% JavaScript has become a generic term. It is absolutely not something that anyone associates with Oracle specifically. They associate it with the internet and multiple browser vendors and multiple runtimes. Not even like the high-level developers generally consider Oracle to be a part of anything involving JavaScript. So in 1996, Netscape announced a meeting of the ECMA International Standards Organization to standardize the JavaScript programming language. Sun, now Oracle, refused to give up JavaScript mark for this use though, so it was decided that the language would be called ECMAScript instead. Microsoft happily offered JScript, but no one else wanted that. Brendan Eich, the creator of JavaScript and a co-signatory of this letter, wrote in 2006, ECMAScript was always an unwanted trade name that sounded like a skin disease. It does. And so that's why the JavaScript standards these days are ECMAScript 2024, ECMAScript 2023, and so on. ECMA International formed TC39, a technical steering committee which publishes ECMA 262, the specification for JavaScript. This committee includes participants from all major browsers like Google's Chrome, Apple Safari, and Mozilla's Firefox, as well as representatives from server-side JavaScripts like Node.js and Deno. Oracle's ownership of the JavaScript trademark only causes confusion. The term JavaScript is used freely by millions of developers, companies, and organizations around the world, with no interference from Oracle. On the contrary, Oracle ships JavaScript that runs on these runtimes, and they probably use these runtimes internally pretty heavily. I don't think you could make the argument that Oracle just didn't know or they have their own competing one. It's not the case. They use it. They depend on the runtimes that I mentioned before or that are mentioned above. Oracle has done nothing to assert its rights over the JavaScript name, likely because they do not believe their claim to the mark would hold up in court. And at this point, if they say anything, they might lose it, and Oracle's not about losing IP and trademarks. So they're more into sitting on them forever. So unlike typical trademark holders who protect their trademarks by extracting licensing fees or enforcing usage restrictions, Oracle has allowed the JavaScript name to be used by anyone. This inaction further supports the argument that the trademark has lost its significance and become generic. There's also this thing, if you do not defend your trademark, you can pretty easily have that trademark removed from your possession. If a competitor is using your name and you do nothing about it, you do not take them to court, then your competitor can take the trademark from you. They can claim to be using it instead. Programmers working with JavaScript have formed innumerable community organizations. These organizations, like the standards bodies, have been forced to painstakingly avoid the name of the programming language they are built around. For example, JSConf. Sadly, without risking a legal trademark challenge against Oracle, there can be no JavaScript conference, nor a JavaScript specification. The world's most popular programming language cannot even have a conference in its name. I've never noticed that. I think I like JSConf better, honestly, as a name. I think it rolls off the tongue a little bit better, but it is a good point. No one can use this name. There's a vast misalignment between the trademark's ownership and its widespread generic use. Freed the mark. By law, a trademark is abandoned if it is either not used or becomes a generic term. Both apply to JavaScript. It is time for the USPTO to end the JavaScript trademark and recognize it as a generic name for the world's most popular programming language, which has multiple implementations across the industry. Oracle, you likely have no real business interest in the mark. It's renewed simply because legal staff are obligated to renew all trademarks regardless of their relevance or use. We urge you to release the mark into the public domain. However, asking nicely has been tried before and it was met with silence. If you do not act, we will challenge your ownership by filing a petition for cancellation within the USPTO. To you, the readers of this letter, if you agree with us, if you're encouraged to sign this letter below, your support will help raise awareness and add weight to this cause. If you want to sign as an organization, minimum 25 employees, please email companies@javascript.tm. In addition, we're seeking pro bono assistance from lawyers with expertise in trademark law to help file a petition for trademark cancellation with the USPTO. It's likely that simply asking nicely will not get a response from Oracle. A legal challenge must be made. Reach out to this email if you can help. And so the names on here are pretty prominent. So there's Ryan Dahl, Brendan Ike, Rich Harris. That's another name I know. Wes Boss and Scott Talinsky. pretty prominent creators in this space. So these guys they're pretty prominent members of the community here. I really do think that this is probably a bigger deal than just leaving this alone and letting this go for another 10 years or however long it takes. I do think that effectively Oracle is just sitting on the name. And this is an interesting spot. I'm gonna play the devil's advocate here for a second. Oracle has admittedly sat on this trademark. They probably should have released it when going to the standards body, the ECMAScript stuff. They probably should have released the trademark at that point. That was their first mistake. But their second mistake is, if you're going to hold on to a trademark, you need to use it. As a company, you can't just sit on a name and expect to keep it. So again, mistake one, keeping the name when you weren't going to use it. Step two, not using the name once you said you were going to keep it. So inherently, they were trying to keep the door open, essentially, so that they could maybe capitalize on the name later, but it grew too big to be a thing that they could actually effectively do in good faith and not get sued by companies. Because imagine a world where they said everybody who runs JavaScript on their computer or their TV or their toaster, everyone must pay for an instance of a JavaScript runtime to Oracle. They tried to do that. Well, they didn't try. They technically succeeded. The JVM requires that you pay to use Oracle's implementation of the JVM. They could very well they could change their license agreement and attempt to do the same thing with JavaScript because they're the trademark holder over that name. So they've been keeping this card in their back pocket for a long time. So it probably, it actually is probably incredibly vital that this enter public domain because of the gravity of the situation, because of the amount. JavaScript's running on rockets. Like SpaceX uses JavaScript Vue.js on their front ends for their crewed spaceship missions. Like it's running on rockets. So I think it has entered that it's too big of a piece of society. It needs to enter public domain, just to prevent abuse. That said, I do get the argument that all the other big key cornerstones of the ecosystem are owned by large corporations, and that's not a problem. Mozilla owns SpiderMonkey, Google owns V8, Microsoft owns NPM, and their open foundations own Node.js. Dino's a startup, I believe. So I do think that there's arguments either way, but I do think ultimately it's too important a piece of technology to keep under one company, especially when that company is known to abuse such things in the past. You can make your own decisions, but I think I am going to take the opportunity, personally. I am going to sign this letter. Cool. Probably there at the very bottom. Oh, there we go. No, right at the top. Alrighty. Yeah, again, I think this is probably something that needs to happen. I don't think this is something that should probably happen. A lot of times companies need to hold trademarks. I think that ultimately you do need to have a trademark system. But I think in this case, I think it's been abandoned, and I think it's become something larger than just one company that needs to hold the rights to this. So I personally, I think this is a good thing. So if you like this video, hit the like button, maybe make a comment down below, especially if you think I'm wrong, if you think I've missed the mark here, or there's some big glaring thing that I've missed. I'm not a lawyer. I should have prefaced this with I'm not a lawyer. If you want to be here for the recording of these, join on Twitch on 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We record them every Monday. With that, have a good one.